Good morning. In this video, we're going to discuss more with the issue of Robert Breaker and his issue on slavery, which goes also to PPI. Brian Dengler, he's not a PPI graduate, but he's adherent to Ruckman. And Sluter, Hoffman, John Davis, Gene Kim, all these guys who are sneaking into mainline Christianity and using racial connections. We're going to look at the way they talk. I'll go to a Ruckman footnote to use the words. You see what the breakup of the Dengler cult has been. Over words like Japheth and Ham and Shem. Who talks like that anymore? They're arguing over whether this guy's girlfriend, JT's girlfriend, was from Shem or was she from Shem or Japheth? That's none of these people. But when we read from Robert Breaker's blog, which all you Robert Breaker defenders haven't read, I guarantee it. Where he tried to unify, he tried to say all the Yankees are really from, one Episcopalian, one Methodist, one Baptists, one the mainline denomination. No, they were either Catholic, Unitarian, and Universalist. That's the way this guy's mind thinks, and that therefore they were heretics or didn't believe in Jesus Christ as God, and that's how this warped mind, and that's why they were against slavery and things like this. And then, of course, we're going to look at the point in the video. He says, the Southern ministers won't allow. He says many ministers. The fact is, you had to be pro-slavery in order to preach in the South. They wouldn't let you preach in the South if you're anti-slavery. So let me just read here. This is a Confederate Baptist. And he put a whole video up here defending slavery people as a New Testament issue. And I'll read something from Ruckman to show you the mindset of these guys. Let's see here. He says, they're talking about, they're being, they're all post-millennial and everything. Most people were post-millennial in those days. The pre-millennial view was pretty rare in these denominations. Contrast this with the Southern people and the religious and doctrinal views, many of which were either Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, Episcopalian. That's like in the North. What are you talking about? That's why all these denominations split. Although these denominations differed greatly, they all had one thing in common. They believed all men were sinners who were inherently evil, and they needed a Savior to forgive them their sins. Well, according to Breaker, they didn't think the black man was a sinner. They just didn't believe he had souls. And he knew this because he studied the issue. He said that. And they could not save themselves. But Breaker said the white ministers of the pre-Civil War didn't believe black people had souls. And although some of them have been snared into unbelief by the teachings of German rationalism, the majority of them in their ministries believed in a literal reading and teachings of Scripture. Oh yeah, where does it say black people have souls? They further believe in the deity of Jesus Christ and view northern religious instruction to be contrary as not only apostate and dangerous, but outright blasphemous and satanic in origin. Thus they viewed the North as a great breeding ground for Satan's ever-increasing kingdom of evil, deception, mistrust, and even hatred and hostility. Southern ministers viewed slavery as not only acceptable, but biblical. And they had the verses to prove it. Get that, people. When I tell you that in 1860, Robert Breaker would have been a pro-slavery, I'm not just talking off the top of my head, which many of you probably thought it was. I got from his own writings. He believes he's defending these guys, and he believes that these Southern ministers Southern ministers viewed slavery as not only acceptable but biblical, and they had the verses to prove it. Those verses haven't changed, people. And neither has Robert Breaker's views. And he's up there talking about, well, now I think, in Acts 8, and maybe, it's one race. And I the other video, I deplore slavery. Hey, you said they had the verses to prove slavery was legitimate. And this video on slavery, these are the verses he uses to prove that's legitimate. Let's see here. He says, but these verses spoke to Israel and did not apply to them. Thus others read the words of the Apostle Paul that do apply to Christians in the church age, dogmatically stressing the literal application in that passage to them, their servants, and to northerners who had no business trying to tell them how to live their lives. So he goes to Paul. 1 Timothy 6, 1 through 5. So at first he goes to Leviticus. Some would run to Leviticus 25, 44 to 46. So then he says, but those verses didn't apply to them. So they went to Paul. Now the whole idea of Breaker, he's a poor guy. So he goes to 1 Timothy 6, 6, 1 through 5. Taking this passage literally, most Southerners believe that the abolitionists were blasphemous and apostates preaching a doctrine contrary to the scriptures and were perverse and corrupt and evil in their attempts at causing strife. Though to a Southerner, a war against slavery was a war against God himself and what he taught in the scriptures. Although God didn't institute slavery, it cannot be denied that he did allow it and wrote verses in the Bible of how Christian masters should treat their slaves. Yeah, but that doesn't mean slavery was good. Ephesians 6:5 and Colossians 1:4:1 are examples of other biblical passages addressed to slaves and the masters. Northerners therefore turned their attention from the scriptures towards tales of mistreatment, quote unquote, by slave owners against their slaves and tried to demonize Southerners, claiming they were all evil men who beat and whipped the slaves and raped their women servants on a regular basis. That's not true. Read the writings of Lincoln. He never said that. No one ever said that. He's a liar. Northerners did not teach that all slave owners were wicked. But as Christian gentlemen, the majority of Southerners never practiced such horrible atrocities. Well, they got a lot of record of them doing that. If you're going to teach that black people don't have souls, that's exactly what they were doing. Mistreating these slaves. And many of these children that were born to white masters. And even though some atrocities did happen by bad slave owners who most of the time weren't even Christian themselves, they were very few and far between. Yeah? See how he's trying to cover that up? They were very few and far between, as they often dealt with the law and or Christian ministers who preached against such conduct. No, Robert Breaker, you preached that the many preachers were preaching that the blacks had no soul. So why would they be protected by ethical standards? Yet the North succeeded in the propaganda and demonization of the South, and books like Uncle Tom's Cabin fueled the fires of outrage in the North. Satan loved the division he had spawned by the liberal mindset of the North and their hatred toward the Southern, Bible-believing and Bible-practicing Christians. Oh no, you said, Breaker. And we'll see exactly what you say here. Let's do exactly what you say here. One in.
I'm just so thankful for my third great grandfather, how he cared about black people. He would go out and he'd baptize them, and a lot of the people that he led to the Lord, probably more black people he led to the Lord than white people. So I think that's interesting. I appreciate him. He's an amazing guy. Now, there are some things that he believed that he was a little off on, but from what I gather, he seemed like an okay guy. At least he was preaching the gospel of Paul. He wanted a revision of the King James, so I don't appreciate that. So I don't agree with that on everything. But it's interesting to study his life and to see that he was not somebody that was anti-black like some people are today. And as you read the book, you realize, wasn't it something that when God went and the nation rejected life, and I got to travel around and see some of the churches that he pastored. I kind of see those jaws there. But this is my third great grandfather here. Jacob Manley Canty Breaker, 1824 to 1894. Kind of has my beard a little bit. Thank God I'm not.
No, you have his beard. He doesn't have your beard. You have his beard.
Not balding like him, but that's my third great grandfather. I did a lot of study on him. He grew up in South Carolina and then in Key West, Florida. And he pastored some churches in South Carolina in the 1800s. This was before the Civil War. And he was a Southern Baptist. And in those days, there were a lot of Southern Baptists, a lot of them, that did not believe that black people had souls.
Get that, people. In this blog, he's telling you this is a Bible believing, and they took the Bible literally. And now he's saying, this is 2018, that there are many, many Baptist preachers who did not even believe blacks had souls and would not evangelize them. So, in this blog here, he gives you the runaround. The runaround here. And they had this, remember he says, and they were pro-slavery. And they had the scriptures to prove it. And he goes to 1 Timothy 6, 1 through 5. And so, if you were against slavery, basically it's saying you were going against the Bible. He says, although God didn't institute slavery, it can't be denied that he did allow it. And what verses? He allowed divorce too. Doesn't mean it was good. So, so here he goes. Let's see here. Let's see. The Satan loved the division. He has spawned the liberal mindset of the North and the hatred towards Southern Bible-believing and Bible-practicing Christians. Towards Southern Bible-believing. Yeah, that sounds like Bible-believing, Bible-practicing Christians. People who were pro-slavery and didn't think blacks had a soul. That's what you get with this guy. That's what you get with all of these guys. I'm going to link you to this for you people who actually care. He's got it up on his other video. He's got this on another channel, people. He's got two websites now. With Confederate Baptists. And he's got the blog up here. This blog in no way condones or advocates hatred toward any race or people, anarchy against any government, or violent civil unrest in any form. This blog is a resurrection of my third great grandfather, newspaper, the Confederate Baptist, which he started and edited from 1861 to 1865, which defended the idea that slavery was a legitimate good, based on 1 Timothy 6. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to put some up from Ruckman and show you how well these guys are still using the terminology of Ham, Japheth, and Shem. And how they misapply the idea that we're supposed to be slaves. That's what he came up with in his video defending slavery. And how he wanted to Greek. And then he'll tell you, oh, you know, the South is all made up of Bible believers. And yet he knew that the South was made up of people who didn't even teach blacks had souls. And would not preach it. It was forbidden, people, to teach blacks to read and write. At one time, as we got closer to the war, the states cracked down. He won't tell you this. None of these neo-Confederate guys tell you that. Blacks used to be taught how to read and write. They were taught from the Bible. But that had to be cracked down on because that meant they were human. Putting weapons in their hands would have meant they were human. And that's why Jeff Davis said we have to stop looking at them as property, and now switch to our view of them as persons. The initial view of the black slave was as property, which meant it's like, had no soul, so you dehumanize them. But this is the root of all these PBI guys. This is why Brian Denlinger broke up with his buddies over this. This is how wicked this thing is. And perverse. So let me stop with this up and we'll look at something else dealing with this particular issue in freedom. And Wuckman explains it, and then go look at the use of these words. Who uses those words anymore? Hamite, Ham, and Japheth, Shem. Even Kim, when he's trying to defend Wuckman on this, says they're all mixed up now. You can't separate them. They're all mixed up. But after these guys, let me stop with this up. Amen. Thank you.